Ah, it's already recording. You know, I have no idea how to use this. Using it for the first time. And I haven't done a lot of filming for a long time. So there you go, Polska dla Polaków. Some Viva Warszawa by Stefan Miller. I've seen him one time in the flesh. I just drank up. I'm not that ill, I hope. Hopefully not, but I just drank a very cold drink. It says książkę dla turystów słoików, jars. I don't know what that means in reality. I gastarbeiterów, of which I suppose he's calling himself one. Although that should never really be applied to people in the European Union. There's a book about Swedes there. That's not exactly how I imagine Swedes, but there we go. And there's a few other things interesting here in this window of this bookshop. Gray, E.L. James, obviously a surname that hasn't bothered her from becoming a well-known author. I think it's a she. That's the original one, The 50 Shades of Grey, about a man with a very large sunglasses collection. And then this is the same story again, Grey, done from his perspective apparently, as if that was, so that one must have been written from the woman's perspective, and now she's going to attempt to write it from the actual man's perspective as well. So it looks like she's getting paid twice for the same story, which is good work if you can get it. And I wanted to talk about, as far as this is concerned, czego nie powie masa o polskiej mafii. Well, I don't know what the masa says about it, but it is interesting that I should have seen that this evening, because it's actually the evening of Masa Krytyczna. This is also the first time I'm using this new opportunity to film with this new camera, which is actually a real telephone camera, which I've never really used before for filming. People have accused me of using a telephone camera, but because I can hold it in my hand, what I used to have, but that went on the blinks about 6 months ago, more than that now. So really for almost a year I haven't done much by way of filming. But this is actually the evening. This, I don't know what it's going to look like, whether the sound is going to be good, whether I'm really holding it in a good way for this kind of camera, whether it's going to use up all my disk space and won't be easy to put on a computer. I really don't know. It's just an experiment, first time ever. Not even experimented with it up till now. This is a live experiment, if you like, with that shop window. But why Masa is interesting tonight is that it's actually the final Friday of the month today. It's Friday, October the 30th, 2015, and it's about 8 o'clock. If I want to be specific about that, it's 5 minutes past 8. I'm on a walk. So far today I've got other technology tells me how far I've walked in the day. That's 8.1 kilometers so far today. This is a nice walk. It's past my total target for a day, for a typical day, but that's okay. If I go over target, that's good if I get the opportunity. It's cold, but it's not too cold. There's good conditions for walking, dry, not too windy, not wet. So and this is Puławska Street in Warsaw that we're walking down. And it's actually because it's the final Friday at 8 o'clock in the evening, and this is the route that Masa Krytyczna, critical mass, have chosen. So they're supposed to have left Castle Square. Well, you're supposed to congregate there at 6 o'clock. In theory, it leaves at 6 o'clock. I've done it myself, as you'll be aware if you watch my YouTube channel. I've done it well, back in the summer in 2012. Shortly after that I got pneumonia and I didn't do it again. In fact, my little time doing cycling has been taken over completely by walking. Since that time I've been doing walking, really, since I got back from the pneumonia. I went to China as well. I pretty much did walking the whole time. But I assume they'll be coming up this side of the road because they're going anti-clockwise on the map. They're going along to where the Warsaw Uprising Museum is, using the Solidarności Street. Then they're going down Okopowska, Towarowa, down Grujecka Street. They're going to go off west just to cause trouble at the Sienkiewicz bus station for a while. Then they're going to be coming right past my house, just under the windows, back in this direction, and following like almost the opposite route to the route effectively that the 172 bus goes down, before they turn up this street. When they get to the end of Odince, to this street, they'll be turning up here. I assume they'll be on this side of the road where the way the traffic goes up back north, and then they'll follow into Bagatella Street where the British residence used to be, and now it isn't. I think it's been turned into some Polish ministry. I've been walking down this way to encounter it. Obviously I don't know how much storage space this phone is going to allow me for filming, so I'm going to stop. I've given you the background, so when I actually find them coming towards me, when there's some action, then I'll turn it back on again. Okay, in the meantime I've set the scene. We're in Puławska Street, it's Masa Krytyczna, but they haven't got this far around to me yet, even though in theory it's been going on for 2 hours already, and you would pretty much expect them to be not far away. Basil and Lime, I'll give them a free plug. One of the best Thai restaurants in Warsaw. I recently discovered it after I went to the Internations Thai cooking evening event, where you got taught how to cook a few dishes by a very good chef, and I've uploaded that to Facebook, all the pictures of that, so if you want the information, it's including the pictures as well, a plug for that. Okay. And this chap's doing a sort of one-man critical mass, and so they should be coming up sometime soon, I think. I don't know how far I'm going to get before I actually bump into them. Of course, if they have to change their route, if they get forced to change their route, I might not bump into them at all. But hopefully that won't happen. I would like to see them this evening, because this is called the Mass for the Dead. As you probably know, in Poland they treat the 1st of November very seriously. Everybody goes and visits the graves of their family, their loved ones, and some maybe friends as well as family, and they put something on, usually as niche, which is like a small lamp, and flowers as well, possibly. If they're Jewish, they put pebbles on, for reasons which you can talk about in the comments if you like. I think I knew, but I've forgotten why they do it. But if you look at a Jewish grave, you'll invariably see pebbles on, or you'll see some pebbles sometimes on graves which don't look outwardly like Jewish graves, but they are anyway, and the people that, well, the game is given away, if you like, by the fact that you'll see pebbles on them as well sometimes. So just laid out nicely in a kind of pattern on the grave. So it has a deep symbolism, which I knew but promptly forgot afterwards. That's how good of a student I am. So but maybe somebody can remind me. And but anyway, what they're going to do is they're going to have tonight, they're going to have the Mass for the Dead, as it were, critical Mass for the dead, and they're going to put on to these well, the dog that's usually here isn't here now, they're going to tie onto their handlebars these black ribbons. Maybe that took some time to get going, and maybe as well, maybe they're going at a very funereal speed. Now, the reason why they are celebrating the Day of the Dead is because they're making the point that in the Mazowiecki region, which is the sort of county, if you like, around Warsaw, it contains 3 or 4 million people, of which the largest city is obviously Warsaw, but it's got plenty as well around it. It's quite big. I mean, it's bigger than some European countries just on its own. But in this Mazowiecki region, there's been over 50 deaths per year for the last several years of cyclists getting hit by cars, which is one of the reasons why you get a lot of tendency, as you've already seen in this video, for cyclists to prefer using the pavements. But even when cyclists do use the pavements, it doesn't result in that many casualties going the other way, where people actually, you know, normal pedestrians like myself, getting hit by bikes and losing their lives. There have been 1 or 2 in about 10 years in Poland, despite the frequency of people using the pavement instead of the road. I don't understand why in the UK it's not allowed. In Poland it's theoretically not allowed, you should be doing what that guy's doing. But in practice people do it, and the police usually don't react. They usually kind of like ignore you doing it, yeah? You should do what this guy's doing, but of course you can become one of those statistics. See the moon up there tonight? You can become a statistic, so if you're not careful when you ride your bike. And so in protest at this, that there are not enough of these cycle paths in Warsaw, in asking for more cycle paths and cycle lanes maybe on the road as well. Certainly cycling is very, very popular over the summer. When the snow sets in, it's not not quite that way, but you could at least have them for the times of year when there's a lot more cycling going on, and then open it up. Certainly in winter you need those spaces to put the snow in anyway when you're shoveling the snow to one side. You might not use them for bikes in the winter. Nobody wants to really cycle much in the snow, I've noticed. Strangely enough, that was a question that I got asked when I went for my Cambridge interview at Clare College. This old Don said, what do you think about cycling in the snow? Do you think you would like to do that? That's a strange question. I came here to talk about Russian literature. This Don was asking me whether I want to cycle in the snow. He took me for some kind of an idiot. I just didn't know how to respond to him. I mean, not that I probably did look like an idiot. That was probably the whole art of it, but then I know that now. I didn't know it at the time. Okay, so as I said, I'm not going to use the whole thing now. It's already been 13 minutes, can you believe it? I just love to talk and walk with a camera, and I haven't done it for so long. But I'll switch this back on when there's something to film of critical mass. So I've given you the whole background. Okay, well, basically, I'm already in my own street. It's already over an hour later. They would have had to have come here by now. So it looks like they've changed completely their plans to what was published on the website, and I've missed them. So there we are. We don't get to see it, which means I don't know whether I'll publish this or not in the end. This film, I might do it just if hearing back, maybe just for memorial purposes, to show that you know what my first attempt with this particular camera looked like. But basically, it's very wobbly if I don't hold on to it at the bottom. It's a bit of a disappointment because they've changed their place. So either that, or they simply didn't get any turnout, so cancelled the whole thing. I have no idea. I just can't imagine that they would still be doing it and not have got here yet, because this is like the halfway mark. The whole of their intended route, if you like, was 18 kilometres, and this is about 9 kilometres into it. So even if they set off at 7 o'clock, and right now they were coming past here, they'd be set fair to get back to Castle Square only about midnight, unless they sped up, of course, which they can do. Some of the one that we went on that was 40 kilometres. I went with Alan Heath on that one in June. That was June. It was the longest day in the year, practically, and well, it was still dark when we got back, but it wasn't, not much after 10 o'clock. I think it was about 10:30 or something when we got back to Castle Square, even in such. But to do such a lot of completely night cycling wouldn't be that attractive in this temperature. So I don't think they're going to keep people going for. So either they set off and did follow their route, and there were a number of them, but they were all kind of like the hardcore, and they set off promptly at 6, did the route, and did it fast enough so that when they got to where I started following the route, they were not there, and I followed the route round that they put in the opposite way to the way they were supposed to be going, so that I would meet them. And I started really at the last, I suppose, 20% of it. Is that fair to say? I'm sure that's about right. Where Pinkner meets Ujazdowska. I've been following it since then and not gone away from that route. I've been observing that route the whole time. So you couldn't get it going along the stated route past me without me noticing it. Not if it's anything like what's been on previous occasions. And I've seen it a couple of times, quite apart from taking part in it one time. So actually on a bike, apart from that I've seen it a couple of times. It's quite spectacular, which is why I wanted to film it. So obviously something's gone wrong. I just cannot imagine that they would leave it till this late at night, because there's no disruption that happens if they leave it so late. So either they just changed the route at the last minute to cause maximum disruption, or they were told to by the police or something, I don't know. Or alternatively, they went around it so fast that they'd already got past where I joined the route before I got to it, and that would have meant going off bang on time and doing about 14 kilometres in 1.5 hours. So they would have been going at, I suppose, like 9 kilometres from immediately at 6 o'clock the whole time. That's not the way it usually looks on those things. So it looks like they just changed the route, but I'll find out. In any event, I'm a bit disappointed, but I did get the opportunity to try this out, this new telephone of mine. It's actually, if you're interested, it's a Galaxy S6 Edge. So and the people generally acclaim the camera in it, and as you can see, it seems to be, from the screen, it looks like full HD and plenty of darkness handling capacity, because I'm getting a much sharper image and even better handling of the darkness than I had with my old Creative Vado. Well, technology's come on, hasn't it? A few more years since I bought that, so it's just as well. And it's not like these things are cheap, so it's good if they do have some nice electronics in them, and optics too, for that matter. So there we go. I do an awful lot of walking around at night, which is why I tend to, well, I can't really do myself, but I can't see myself doing myself anyway, but hopefully you saw me there looking, you know, a bit wrapped up, and in this quite bright green coat of mine I've been using now for several years. My previous boss said that I was fashion challenged because I wore it, but it's not for fashion, it's for making sure I'm visible, because I don't want to be one of those statistics I talked about earlier. It's not just cyclists that get hit by cars, and some of my personal acquaintances have been hit at night by cars, and as a driver myself sometimes, there is this time of night when you just don't see people if they're dressed darkly. I want to give a driver every chance I can. I don't want to just put on these luminescent armbands, because, you know, that might get covered by something or not be noticed, so I just make myself completely luminescent. You know, that's luminescent me in this luminescent bright coat like that. So there we are. I think I've said enough. It's pretty clear. The very last possible thing that could happen would be if they came round the corner now, but it isn't going to happen, is it? It's let's just check. It's now 9:30, so they're not going to do it this late. It would mean that they had, which is not impossible, I suppose, that they had set off at about 7, which is what can happen. They can take a while to get themselves all together and get told what they're doing. Gone really, really slowly, like funeral tempo, for the first bit. It was supposed to be, after all, to celebrate the Day of the Dead, so it's not the sort of thing where you go whizzing around the town. You tend to go slowly. You either walk slowly or you drive slowly. So you'd also take the bike thing particularly slowly. It's slow anyway, but it would be a reason to make it even slower than normal. So if it's around the corner now, well, that would mean that they really had gone slowly. And we'll see if it's coming down the road. It would mean that they'd gone really, really, really very, very slowly. Either, you know, setting off at 7 and then really only going at walking pace ever since, or stopping on the way to talk maybe by the graveyards which they were going to go by, although they didn't go as high as the graveyards really. More like the Museum of the Warsaw Uprisings, where they were turning down, rather than those big graveyards that there are in Poland, in Warsaw, up on Okopowski area. But from the sound of it, buses are coming from that direction. Probably see it in a moment. Yes, there it is, fluently. So we can pretty much work out they're not there. They just didn't do it. They picked a different route at the last minute to throw everybody off, and you had to be there at the start space to know it. That's probably what's happened. If I do find out, then I'll write what it is in the comments or in the description. Or if you know, you can write it in the comments. I'll just go to the end here just to see if it's if there's any sign of anything. And instead there's no sign. I just don't want to go any further because I just don't believe it. I don't believe that it could still be going on. So there you go. What a letdown, eh?